Hi there and welcome to our 1900 farmhouse before and after kitchen reveal. And I am so excited, like really, I'm probably the most excited about this room in the whole main floor that we did. Our primary bedroom maybe is a close second, but this room is like my vision come to life. And that's never really happened. I've remodeled some kitchens in the past, but I've never actually gutted a space and had to create a new space where there hadn't really been one before. The whole time it was kind of like, is this really gonna work? And it was so fun to move in and use it and see, yes, it really did work. So I just want to remind you that this is the second video in the series of before and after reveals. And the first one, if you haven't seen it, you'll want to go and watch it. It's all about the living room and dining room. We also talk about some of the first things we did on the house, which weren't even interior stuff. So that'll be linked below and you'll want to check that out as well as watching this one. So when we first walked into the kitchen from the living area, this was a pretty good sized room. The previous owners had had a table in the center, like a eat-in kitchen. And the wall at the base of the stairs held the refrigerator and the stove. And then on the right side was a sink, and it kind of surrounded it. But the sink was against a wall with a window and a door in it. And it just looked into a laundry room that had been an enclosed porch. So it was like very odd to have a window and your view from the sink was your laundry room. Yeah, so I knew right away that I wanted to change that. I wanted to change the configuration of the whole room by removing that wall with the door and the window and opening it up to that enclosed porch and making all of the kitchen over in that area. So we'd have a work triangle in that area. And then at the base of the stairs, we would completely change that into a coffee bar and cabinet storage area. Part of making that work was to take this long enclosed porch and make it smaller so it would fit in this new kitchen area. So we needed to create walls basically. And the walls were also going to separate the laundry room. We were just totally reworking how the space worked. And it was kind of fun that I saw it right away when we first walked in the house, and I drew up the plan from the beginning, and it really didn't change except for some measurements here and there from that first idea. And it's just fun to see it come to life. But there was a lot more that we did after that.
Okay, so yeah, it was a lot of work to change the structure of the kitchen. You just talk about taking a wall out. Well, what if it's a load-bearing wall? So now you're into your permits and plans and all this stuff. Well, we went ahead and did that. We put a beam across that would bear the load of the wall, took the wall out. We ended up putting in walls on either side down at the end of the kitchen. One made a wall to the pantry, one walled in the furnace so it wouldn't be in the middle of the kitchen. And then we redid the stairs where I would bang my head every time we went up, and we fixed that so that didn't happen. And then we added the closet that's here. It looks like it was built in and part of the house, but we added that when we had the stairs done. And finally, it's really light. We have no lights on right now, and that's because we added windows. We did windows down at that end. We added a window going up the stairs, and then we, where there was a small window, we ended up putting in a door that has a full light to it.
So once we got the structure in place and the structural things done, then we could actually take measurements for things like cabinets and other things so we could order. But what we discovered in kind of essentially gutting the place, is as we took off the wallboard, we discovered original tongue and groove beadboard ceilings and walls in the main original section. And that was pretty exciting because if you were able to see the first video, you know that this house had no 1900 character left in it besides upstairs molding that we replicated, and that was it. So to find original beadboard, I knew we were going to try to save it. So it was a lot of work, and thankfully we were able to source an inexpensive place that sold reproduction. It's tongue and groove, and it's got it's like a 1 by 4 or 3 or something, and it has a bead going down the center of it, and that's why they call it beadboard. But it's tongue and groove boards, and we could find a whole pallet of them at a bargain center, in fact. So we were able to do the new section, which had been the enclosed porch that only had plywood walls, and we were able to cover all of those with the same beadboard to match the original section. And I think it turned out great, and it was something that just I didn't plan. It just happened, and we went with it, and it's kind of one of the defining characteristics of the kitchen. So as you can see, we added the wall and created just a very simple pantry, just very simple shelves. I love how we used reclaimed wood for some of the shelves, and we made a countertop in there so we could have some appliances, because we don't have a lot of traditional countertop or upper cabinets in the main part of the kitchen. So I did want to take a minute to mention our pantry door. It's an old door that we found. Again, I think my brother sourced that on the side of the road. And we had to find all new doors for the house because none of them were original, and they were all hollow core doors. So the closet door was I think we got it from Facebook Marketplace, and this pantry door, which has all the fun kind of colors on it, was found on the side of the road. So we just hired someone to hang the old doors, and that was the one key to making old doors work for a house, is to get someone who kind of knows what they're doing to hang them. One of my favorite things in the kitchen is this arched cabinet that we were able to build into this new wall that we made to separate our new laundry room from the kitchen. And this top part, the arched part, is a salvaged piece that my brother found on the side of the road. It was painted some garish colors when we first got it. And I immediately thought, well, wouldn't that be wonderful to have in here to create some character that the house was lacking? And built-ins were big in the 1900s, and so to put it back into this house really seemed like it would go. And I asked my stepdad if he would create a matching cupboard for the bottom so we could have a full width cupboard, because again, we needed more storage. And it's just been working out really well. I keep our spices and things up there, and so it really it looks good, and it actually works and has storage in it. And down below we keep glasses and extras. So we kind of eked out, it's about 15 inches, 12 to 15 inches deep. So we kind of eked out the storage that we could in the spot, and it looks good and it works well. So when it came time to order the cabinets, I did a lot of research about IKEA cabinets or shaker cabinets online. Sometimes you have to put them together, sometimes you can pay an extra fee to have them put together. Brian really did not want to put together cabinets, and he really wasn't interested in installing cabinets either. Even though we do a lot of things ourselves, he felt like this house was old and really wonky as far as the floor and the wooden walls, even the new ones we put in, that it would make installation kind of difficult. So I remember being advised one time by my contractor brother-in-law to check out local cabinet makers, and then a lot of times their prices would be similar to other cheaper sources like IKEA and online. So that's what I did, because the other thing I discovered with IKEA is they're not all wood cabinets. Like, they're particle board, and I was really looking for all wood. I went with a local cabinet maker. They work right down the street from us, so it was really convenient. And they made these all wood cabinets for us, and it was literally, I don't even think it was $1,000 more. And we would have had to pay to have the other ones installed too. So installation was on top of that, but we would have already paid for that. Believe me, when they were installing them, I was so glad it was their product they were working with, because they had to make changes. They had to work with completely unlevel floors, and they just did it all, and they could come back and change things and add things, and it was totally worth the extra money, totally worth it. I would advise anybody to at least check with local cabinet makers. And these are quality, like I said, all wood. They have the soft close, open and close, all the bells and whistles that you could want, and I'm really happy with them. So the key to the whole kitchen plan really was the island. The sink had to be in the island, and it's actually almost in the same spot that the sink was previously. It just faces the other way now, so that you can stand at the sink and look out our new windows at the pretty view on that side. It's a pretty big island, and we had the cabinet makers do the same thing, and I had them paint it this really pretty green that I've used in other spots in the house, which you'll see in the future reveals. Then we had a quartz countertop put on them, and that is become the hub really of the kitchen. It provides some eat-in, it provides so much space for baking and cooking. At the holidays, I spread everything out. There was plenty of room. So my one concern with the original plan was that there wasn't a ton of traditional counter space. We just have a little bit on each side of the stove, and that's about it. But this island, it's a workhorse, and it totally made up for it.
Okay, I just wanted to talk briefly about the wood floors. I know we covered them in the living room and dining room reveal, but in the kitchen, the subfloor was so crazy and had so many bumps and waves and uneven things going over the doorways that I was really worried, because my brother-in-law and I put in the wood floor. We'd never done one before, and I just thought it was going to be a mess in the kitchen. As it turned out, because our planks were 5 inches wide, they took out a lot of the little craziness. And then having watched some videos about how you build up the floor using things like roofing shingles and other methods, the floor actually went in really well, and you can feel with your feet a tiny bit of unevenness, but it's nothing like it was. Again, we're just really happy with how it went in and how it looks for the kitchen.
This section of the kitchen is at the bottom of the stairs, and we call it the coffee bar because it contains our coffee making stuff. But we did not have these cabinets built by the same company that built our main cabinets. These were put together by my wonderful stepdad, who also worked on the arch cabinet. And I kind of drew out some plans and kind of my idea, and he took it from there and built these 4 sections that then we put together with a butcher block counter that I've refinished. And we added a sink, and this is kind of the best part of the coffee bar, is that we have these special doors that he used, and you just push them back so we can have our coffee open in the morning for however long we need it, and then we can close it back up, and it looks nice and clean. And the reason I really wanted it to be able to close back up is because it is what you see from the front door, and I just didn't want it to look junky all the time. I just wanted to be able to close it up and not see it. So the coffee bar section has worked out really well. We used the second sink a lot. Brian wasn't sure that we were going to. And this will also be on the way out to the future deck through the door. So it'll be a great place to fill up water glasses and stage things to go out onto the deck in the future. The one thing I wanted to add about the stairs is that Brian mentioned how they were steep and he hit his head, but that was only one of their problems. They had many problems. The main problem that you saw right away was that the stair rail was an old metal rail that looked like it came out of a trailer park. You know how they have those metal rails outside? That's what it looked like. And then they were super rickety to walk down. So you'd walk on some of the steps and you felt like they weren't going to hold you. So they weren't very safe that way as well. And we could see why, because when we took off the side and started to tear out the stairs, we could see that they had just built this set of stairs over the top of the original super steep stairs. And they had used just piles of lumber and old pieces of the original beadboard to just hold up the new stairs, which just obviously didn't work very well and didn't last very long. The stairs were also a lot wider at this flight than they were the flight that turns and goes up into the upstairs. So we also widened those a little bit when we put in the closet, and we made them match, so you don't notice it quite as much. They're not exactly the same, but you don't notice it as much. And they're a lot sturdier.
So we had always planned on having a hood over the stove. We were going to do like just one that recirculated, that didn't vent outside. But we found out from our building inspector that code called for venting on a pipe to vent your fumes and smoke outside. So it took us a little bit longer to do that because we had to cut a hole in the side of the house and do piping and everything. But one of the challenges was to get this to make something that didn't dominate too much, didn't look too fancy and kind of went with the rest of the look of the woodwork in the kitchen. And so we looked at lots of videos and lots of examples, and I watched some YouTube videos that helped me kind of figure out how you mount this on the wall. I did the superstructure underneath at first, and then we added the plywood and the other wood. And we had some reclaimed wood that was actual siding that we ripped and flipped and sanded, and we finished it so it's not a perfect match to the butcher block counters that we did, but it's coordinating, and we're just really happy. We just think it makes this end of the kitchen look great.
So there we have it, our pretty dramatic before and after of our farmhouse kitchen. And the one thing I want to say is I was a little bit nervous when you make your own plan. I didn't use a kitchen designer. I just kind of went with what I thought and just how it's actually going to work, like for cooking and I do a lot of preserving, I do a lot of baking, and we have lots of family in the area, and we host get-togethers. So how was this kitchen going to work when it had kind of not traditional amount of counters and cabinets and everything? And after living here for almost 9 months now, I can say it works so well. I'm just shocked actually how well it works. I've done lots of preserving and canning and baking, and we even hosted Christmas Eve with a bunch of people, and at one point they were all in the kitchen, and we had to grab a picture because there was plenty of room still to walk around, and you could visit with people, and you could still go and sit at your table. We weren't crowded at all, and it was just kind of the icing on the cake, as it were. It was great to see that work, and we're just really happy with how it turned out.